Good morning and welcome to Real Estate Radio Denver, the most informative hour of radio of the weekend, and we're here every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. right here on News Talk 710 KNUS. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Tom Souther, and as you're aware, Real Estate Radio Denver is dedicated to building Denver's housing and credit marketplace. We're here to give you that timely truth about that market that you're just not getting from the national news outlets, and sometimes not even from the local guys. So we're here to help rebuild the Denver marketplace, and we do that one home at a time by giving you some great advice, a little education, and connecting you with professionals that can help you, whether that's buying a home, selling a home, maybe you've got a little credit glitch you need a tip on, financial tips. Anyway, there are some great solutions out there in our marketplace and just tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted advice. That's what you'll hear every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. right here on News Talk 710 KNUS. So also, I want to throw in every week, I just encourage you to communicate with us. Make a call to our off-air number. Leave us a message. I'd love to connect you with our guests. Or give you some advice or help you with your mortgage issue. That's what I do. You can always reach us at 720-515-1818. Again, write this down, 720-515-1818. Or you can reach me via email at tom@realestateradiodenver.com. That's tom@realestateradiodenver.com. Or, here's a new one, go friend us on Facebook. Search for Real Estate Radio Denver. Like us, and we're going to be doing some promotions on our Facebook page over the next week. My show producer and I are working out some details on that to perhaps have a little giveaway. We're working on what that's going to be, but go ahead and friend that page, Real Estate Radio Denver, on Facebook, and we would love to see you do that. So we've got a great show for you this week. I've got two fantastic guests, actually three. I should always include
one's just not so fantastic.
My buddy Tom Geisen with Homestead Title is with us as usual, and he's the owner of Homestead Title, local business success story, done hugely well. And we're glad to have him. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, always good to be back. Thank you, Tom.
Yep, and as I say, you can't have enough Toms, which is I think arguable, but
hold on to that thought.
Yeah, exactly. So I also have with us two fantastic real estate agents that work a little different parts of the marketplace, and we're gonna spend a little time with both of them. I have Bessie Chachas from Your Castle Services. Bessie, a little bit of specialization in short sales, but we don't want to label you.
Just a teeny bit.
Yeah, if you want advice on short sales, Bessie's your person. She's about as good as they come, and
just
does
closed.
A lot of them.
I just closed number 158.
Wow, that's incredible. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Bessie is going to be a regular contributor and partner on the show. You'll hear from her fairly regularly, keeping up with what's going on in the marketplace, giving some great advice on everything having to do with real estate. So we're very, very happy to have you with us.
Thank you.
Cool. I also have with us Shellee Scherr. She is the owner of Signature Realty. They office out of Wheat Ridge, and she's been in the biz for 20 years, I just heard. Wow.
Yep.
Shellee, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
And we're going to probably spend more time with you in the second half of the show, but I want you to feel free to jump in. We're going to have a discussion about what's going on with the realtor market out there, or the real estate agent market, what those numbers have done, and maybe talk a little bit about short sales with Bessie and some of the trends. So let's get started with that. And of course, Tom, throw in as needed.
As I always do.
As you always do.
And then there's Tom.
And then there's me. So, which we were just talking about experience, and I just told everybody, I've been doing this for about 12 years, but I just count it 1 year 12 times. So, always giving myself credit for all of that. Anyway, Bessie, you have some incredible figures on realtors and production, and, I'd love to talk about with my customers the value of that really experienced agent, and these numbers are startling.
Yeah, they are. It's really, really interesting to find out where our market has gone. As intense, talking about real estate agents, years ago there was like well over 50,000 agents. Last year there were 16,000 licensed agents in the Denver metro area, and this source comes from Dora itself. And only 8,185 of them at least had one closing.
And Dora is Department of Real Estate, not some magical woman who...
No, it wasn't that little girl, that little
Explorer.
cartoon figure, Dora the Explorer. No, it's not her. But some of them should be, no.
So, and they track, Dora, Department of Real Estate, tracks all this stuff. So
Right.
16,000 agents, real estate agents, and about how many of them actually closed a deal?
8,185.
Closed one.
One, at least.
Or less.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the startling figure now.
Okay.
49% of the real estate agents out there did not do a single transaction last year.
Oh, so there's 8,000 that closed one or more,
At least
and
one or
there's
more.
8,000 that closed zero or less.
Yeah.
Right.
But one or more could mean their own house, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell my house.
So the moral of that story is you really want to employ one who's sold more than zero.
Right.
And probably more than one.
Well, yeah, definitely. Let me give a little bit more of the statistics. There was only 1% of the agents, and that's about 130 of them, that did 49 plus deals. 3%, which
So
is
that's 3 or 4 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, those are a lot of the REO agents that sell the real estate owned by the banks.
Right.
And then you've got another 3%, which is 537 agents, 537 agents, did between 25 and 48 deals last year. So the numbers get really kind of skewed. But I would say about the average is between 7 to 13 deals is what the average agent out of those 8,000 plus.
Wow. That is an amazing stat.
and-
When you break that down, one a month.
One a month.
And nationally, that number, I think, is 7. You know,
It is.
Which is
It's
think
less
you're right.
than one a month.
which is almost a half a one a month.
Yeah.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Denver. Man, this is interesting stuff. I am shocked at some of these numbers. We're going to have a lot more for you and show you how this is important in you choosing what agent is right for you. So don't turn the dial. Come on back. We're here with Bessie Chachas from Your Castle Services and Shellee Scherr from Signature Realty, and we're going to be right back. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Denver. I'm your host, Tom Souther, and I have with me here a couple of great real estate agent guests that we're talking about just how important it is to have that real estate agent representing you that actually closes a transaction or two. So I've got with me Bessie Chachas from Your Castle Services. Bessie, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I have Shellee Scherr, the owner of Signature Realty, with us as well. Shellee. Gosh, why am I Shellee challenge?
Because it's Shellee Scherr. I got two first names.
Shellee Scherr. So, Shellee, welcome back.
Yeah.
And Bessie, God, that was some... And Tom, I don't want to forget you, because we can't have enough
It's all
time.
good.
Tom
And then
Geisen.
there's Tom.
And then there's Tom Geisen, the owner of Homestead Title. And we were just talking about how many realtors or real estate agents, because there is a designation of realtor, and I should not use that, but real estate agents that are out there licensed in the business, and about half of them, 16,000, about half of those are non-producers.
True.
And another 40% or so are so minimal producers, it's hardly worth mentioning.
Right.
And how important it is to have someone in today's market, how competitive it is right now, to have someone representing you that really knows what's going on in the marketplace and knows the contracts that are out there today and knows all these pieces to help you with that transaction. You've got a great story, Bessie, on one of these deals.
I do, actually. And of course, I wasn't the agent on that end.
A deal going wrong.
A deal gone wrong. And of course, as usual, it's a friend of mine that I've known forever, moved to California and then decided to move back. And a week after he bought his house, I get a phone call from him. Bess, you need to come over to my house. Something's wrong. So we go in the basement, and in front of his furnace, in the cement floor there's this little handmade canal, like 3 inches wide, little canal that's coming from a wall across the floor and into the drain. The drain in the basement, the water drain in the basement.
Yeah, everybody has one of those. So,
That's common. Yeah, handmade
It's like
little,
a
little
moat.
canal. It's
Yeah.
like,
Filled with water?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what is this? I'm like, how did the listing agent miss it? How did the property disclosures get missed? How did your agent miss it and the inspector? So we followed it to the wall and saw, I was like, well, let's see what's on the other side. And pulled back the carpet on the other side, and the pad was completely wet. They had the baseboard, the hot water heater baseboards, and the pipe that was running across the floor had broken.
Oh, wow.
So the people just built this little canal so the water could drain into the drain, in the floor drain. And I'm like, how did this get missed? I mean, it was so blatant. It wasn't even funny. And he had just closed the week prior and ended up suing the sellers and got $12,000 because they did not even disclose it on the property disclosures. The listing agent didn't say anything and everyone missed it. And I asked him, like, who did you use? Because he's known that I've been in real estate my entire life. And he was like, I used my college buddy. And I said, why? And he goes, because he's my college buddy. And I was like, there's your problem.
There you go.
Yep.
There
I
you
think
go.
sometimes buyers don't think it's as important as sellers. They're like, oh, I might pick an experienced agent to sell my house, but I'll let anybody, help find me a house. That's the easy part.
I think it's the exact opposite in today's market.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're right.
That you really, really need an experienced agent representing you on the buy side.
Right,
Yeah.
but I think the public thinks that
I agree.
they don't need the help on the buy side. They got the internet, and they forget all of the other intricate parts of actually purchasing that property.
Right. And there's a lot of things that you can do to find out. One of the few things that I always tell people that if they're not going to use me, I always say, ask the agent if they own their own home, how much real estate they own and how much work have they done on that home. And they can also call up the company that they work at, call up the managing broker and find out how many deals they closed last year.
Yeah.
So it's a really good way to find out how much somebody knows about real estate and also the contracts alone. There's
I just came across a website the other day called neighborcity.com.
Yeah.
And somebody pointed that out to me. So for the public, you might jot that down, www.neighborcity.com. And you can actually put in your real estate agent's name, and it will tell you how many deals they did last year. And it'll tell buy and sell side.
And I've seen that also, Tom. But like somebody like me who also does transactions for other real estate agents who don't know how to do short sales,
yes.
My numbers are screwed.
Good point. Yeah. Good point.
So it's like, I've heard some really good things about it, but...
I have no idea where they get their data. I have done a few. I have put a few agents that I know in there, and it came back spot on.
Okay.
I've had a few times where the agent's name just didn't even appear at all, which obviously is odd. Yeah. But to your point, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle that somebody does check their agent out before they get started.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely call the company, talk to the managing broker, find out how that agent how many deals they've done. They can tell you right away.
So on that example that you gave, just a quick question on that is did they not get an inspection?
They did do an inspection. The inspector missed it also, and I can't believe
that.
I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I grew up with a silver paintbrush in my hand, and I'm a slumlordess for umpteen years.
Now, that is not a good description of what you do, but you own a significant number of rental properties, and you're very experienced in buying and selling and managing rental properties, which adds to your luster as an agent.
We need to think of another name than slumlordess. We need to work on that.
I think
that's for sure.
Yeah, that probably doesn't really bring up the image you want people to have. No. But it is kind of funny.
It is funny. They're like slumlordess. And of course, I slum in Cherry Creek in the Highlands. And they're like, that's not slumming.
No.
I'm like, I know, but that's okay. But there's a lot of different things that people can do to find out. And I know they're your friend. And I know they're your aunt and uncle and your mom.
Yeah,
but,
and I know
a solution sometimes. I don't know how you feel, Bessie, but, you really want to help out that relative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they come to us or something like that, we'll pay them a referral fee.
Yeah.
So they'll get paid, and you'll get they'll get represented. Everybody wins.
My family won't use me because we all buy our own real estate. We don't use real estate agents. So it's like my dad would just,
Yeah, but your family is highly experienced and has been buying and selling real estate for, a zillion years.
It's funny how many of my friends call me a week later after they bought their home.
Right.
And they forget, like, you're a real estate agent? And I'm like going, you've got to be kidding me.
Well, I think the average person, that does this once every 10 years does not know where to go. And that's why this show is here. Right. To help people, to educate people, to let them know that there are great people out there to help you, and that you have a source to get those, which I will remind you, call us off air and ask us. 720-515-1818. I would love to put you together with Bessie and to help you with that. 720-515-1818. And, some of the other things that are going on, we were talking earlier about, not to jump off of this topic, but the trends on showings and what's going on out there are just phenomenal in showing kind of how this market is recovering and some of the inventory shortages and whatnot. And you had a great figure on the showings. One
of the things that, because I work with Lon Welsh, who is the statistician extraordinaire. I mean, this man dissects the MLS. And if you go into any real estate office, you will see one of his maps. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we noticed is for February that the home showings have gone up 13% from last year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you're seeing already in February, which was very rare years ago. I mean, it was like we'd have this slump in real estate. And now we're already seeing trends and numbers that these should be like numbers in the summer months. So it's not like how it used to be, how we'd have that slump. It's just full-fledged on every single month out of the year right now, and no one's waiting for the summer months to buy a house, because by the summer the home values are going to go up probably a good another 5% or so.
And a lot of that is because of the lack of inventory, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very high lack of inventory. So supply and demand. We're back at the years that we had where it was like, great time to buy a house. And also today we have a great time for interest rates. I mean, it's no better time.
Yeah. And we've beaten that topic up on every show, that the cost of owning is just at the all-time low.
Right.
So it's a great time for first-time home buyers, and I think they're out there looking.
Yeah.
And they're looking at properties, and they're not quite finding what they want, and they're looking and looking and looking, and they're making offers. And they're very competitive offers. That's the issue I see in this marketplace. If you're in that lower end of the purchase price range, is you're competing with multiple offers, and that takes you right back to how important it is to have a super qualified agent, because if you have a sloppy offer, it's not even getting looked at.
No, that's true.
You have zero chance.
Yeah.
To get that deal done until you clean up your act and find somebody who can properly represent you.
It's one of those things where, Tom, we have that disclaimer on here that my tenants are not allowed to listen to this radio show. But this month, one of my tenants came up to me and she goes, "I want to buy a house." And I was like, "Get out of my house." I was like, "Get out. You're not buying a house."
Your lease is canceled.
Your lease is canceled. Oh, by the way, I'm raising the rent. But, it's like she's paying me a ton of money that she could go buy herself, almost a $280,000, $300,000 house. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you had an interesting story with that one. Well, maybe we don't want to go there, but
Bessie, I don't know. Maybe we do.
Because some buyers have different issues and whatnot, and and some people. I think this particular person had limited credit or no credit, and that does not take you out of the home buying market. I can get somebody financed with no credit.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, because actually not everyone can do that.
Yeah. No good credit is different than, let me put it, how do I put this?
Credit.
Having no credit, but having some bad credit, collections and budgets, that kind of negates the no credit thing. But if you truly have no credit and haven't gotten yourself in trouble, we can get you into a home.
Yeah.
That is not an issue. Your choices are a little more limited than someone who has established credit, but it can be done, and it can be done at incredibly world-class rates, and there's plenty of options there for folks. So do we want to, Bessie, talk about what's going on with short sales for a quick minute? We got a couple minutes here. We had a great story there about short sales are always something that are kind of in my heart. I helped a family member that we have a great story with that... why don't you tell the story?
It's one of my it pulls so many people's heartstrings, and this is a really hard one. It was back in summer of last year, and had to do a short sale on this elderly man. I mean, he's in his late 70s and just could not upkeep this house anymore. Couldn't make the mortgage payments anymore.
Right. He had been, underemployed. Yeah. His wife had been unemployed off and on, and just was a bad situation.
And it was. And Tom came to me and said, "This short sale needs to be done. I need to get this done. I need to help him out." And we started doing it and started getting it done. And
I'll jump in here. They were literally 2 weeks from sale.
Yeah.
2 weeks from sale. And we started the process. We talked about maybe a bankruptcy, which would have halted things. And, they were being sold a bill of goods by a loan modification company, wanted cash from them. All of these things that you hear about, the horror stories going on in the industry, all of these happened in this one deal.
Yeah.
And so we got the ball rolling on the short sale process.
Got it stopped.
The foreclosure stopped. They were 2 weeks from sale.
Yes.
Who was the bank?
Who was? It was.
I don't
MetLife.
remember.
It was MetLife, and I didn't know that they did mortgages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was,
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they've stopped now, but they were.
I think you're right.
Yeah, they're not originating anymore, but they do have a large portfolio.
And so doing the short sale, getting it done, and ended up a family tragedy happened. And his daughter was, well, I wouldn't say killed, but it was an accidental.
Died accidentally.
Died accidentally in a scuba diving accident. And had to leave suddenly. And I had to get paperwork. Because that's one of the main things that the bank does is you got to get the paperwork in.
Yeah. Called
up the bank, and they had already set another sale date, and it was a week out. And he was gone. And I'm calling them up, and I'm like going, you've got to stop this.
Let me interrupt you, Bessie. We're going to have to take a quick break here, but, hang on. You want to hear the rest of this story about how a short sale can affect your life. It is life-changing, and potentially there is a great way to exit a property gracefully. So come back, hear the rest of this story. You're listening to Real Estate Radio Denver on News Talk 710 KNUS. And man, don't miss the rest of this. We'll be right back. Thanks. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Denver. I'm your host, Tom Souther, and I'm here in studio. I have Tom Geisen, the owner of Homestead Title, who's jumping in here, and I've got Bessie Chachas from Your Castle Services. Bessie has been in the business forever. She said she was born with a silver paintbrush in her hand because her parents forced her to do work on their rental properties and whatnot since she was, I think, 6 months old. And we're talking about short sales. I also have Shellee Scherr here, who is the owner of Signature Realty. And gosh, we were filling you in on a story about a short sale and how this can affect you and how there are solutions out there if you are in a desperate place. This particular person had a bunch of life events. Was older, in his 70s. His wife was not employed regularly. He had lost his job, and they hadn't been able to make a mortgage payment for quite a while. Had tried to do a loan modification, couldn't get it done. Man, there were so many pieces of this story, Bessie, and Bessie got into it at the very last minute. This is someone that I knew and was close with. And we got involved because they called me to say, hey, I need help with getting my loan modified because they needed money to pay a loan modification company another $4,000 or $5,000. And I said, no. You've already been turned down for a modification once. It's just not going to happen. So I put them together with Bessie, and Bessie helped them with the short sale. And as we said before the break, they had gone through. We had some problems with, or there's quite a chain of paperwork that has to get done, right,
Correct.
Bessie?
A lot.
And they kept asking for more and more and more and more. And in the meantime, in the middle of this person's daughter had an accident and passed away, and all kinds of things happened at once. And the bank that owned the mortgage had said, no, we're not going to play anymore.
Yeah.
We're foreclosing, and we're going to do that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, finally we put together a pretty incredible hardship letter.
Yeah, it was, it definitely was one of those where there was a reason at the time that I have my own office across the hall from the entire rest of the company.
Yeah.
And there's a nice thick door. But, a lot of these banks are very unreasonable, and they have their protocol and this and this and this, and this is what we do. And I'm like, you guys have got to stretch this out another month or so. I'm like, the man just lost his daughter. And I'm like, here, you're going to let him bury his daughter and foreclose on his home in the same week. And they're like, yeah, had no problem telling me, sure, no problem. That's our protocol. This is what we do. And I started just climbing up the food chain at MetLife and got pretty high up there and was verbally abusive to a vice president. I had no problem telling him which side was, sunny side up. And I flat out just told him, I'm like going, if this was your dad, and if this was the situation, would you want him to lose his house? I'm like, let's do this in a dignified manner. Let's let him bury his daughter, and let's let him sell his house in a dignified manner, and don't do this to him. And right there, like half hour before the sale, they stopped it.
Half hour before.
Wow.
And again, this is what you get with someone like a Bessie who really understands that process and knows what phone numbers to dial.
Yeah. And
how to escalate that process versus someone who doesn't do short sales and just here's, we can't do it, and you're done.
Yeah.
So, and the happy ending was, they delayed, and it ended up being delayed another 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Before they finally got all the paperwork done, and they closed.
They did. And what was really nice even is that the bank allowed them to at least spend Christmas in their house too.
Right. They did. That's right.
Yeah.
They were going to close earlier in December, and they gave them another 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which was partly the seller being flexible as well.
Yeah.
And they closed, zero out of pocket, and left the home gracefully, found another place to live, obviously. And, all is well. A situation that would have been really ugly and potentially damaged their credit for a significant amount of time was handled much more gracefully. And it's, there's a happy end to this story. So, one of the things we talked about earlier was whether or not there's less of these happening or more. And, I think short sales are always going to happen.
True.
Foreclosures are always going to happen. That notice of default that you get when you miss a couple of payments they're going to keep happening because life happens to people. You have medical issues, you have a divorce, you have, any number, lose a job, any number of things that cause you to maybe not be able to make your mortgage payment. And the message I want to make sure everybody understands is there are options here. So call us and let us know, and let us put you together with a person like Bessie who can help you with that. So again, that number is 720-515-1818, 720-515-1818. Don't let it kill you.
No.
Because there's solutions.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah. Bessie, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Stick around. We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit here and focus more on Shellee Scherr, the owner of Signature Realty. But Bessie, thank you so much. And again, we're looking forward to having you on the show regularly and going from there.
Thanks.
So, wow. Great story.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I can see, what makes all that yelling at the banks worth it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It does.
At the end. Yeah.
It's very gratifying. And your company does some short sales as well. And,
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great thing. So, Shellee, let's move on to another thing. One of the things that we were talking about, your office is up in Wheat Ridge in the northwest side of town. I'd love to chat a little bit about what's going on up there, if it's any different than Denver or some of the other marketplaces. What's inventory, the number of homes on the market.
Wow. I'm going to say right now, if you're a seller in Wheat Ridge, Arvada, Lakewood, Westminster, Broomfield, and you're thinking about waiting till summer or whatever, we need your property now. Inventory is like that right now.
Well, and I think, what do you think about the difference, selling now, selling later? There's a lot of discussion. Everybody historically has said, gosh, you got to wait for summer. I don't think that's the case. We're seeing overbids on properties in those price ranges.
I've never said wait for summer because it's always been a supply and demand issue. We've always got our sellers sometimes more money in the winter because there's less properties on the market.
Right.
Period.
Well, and I'll tell you, rates are going up.
Yeah. Well,
they're inching up. And you're going to get a better deal on your mortgage this month than you are in the summer, I think, right now. That's my opinion. But
Right. So I personally, if you're thinking of making a move, I would say sooner rather than later, because I think a lot of people wait till spring, and now we got the builders out there building again. Yeah. So we have this little window of opportunity for sellers, not maybe so much for buyers, but we can talk about, later.
But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, inventory is low, and so if you're a seller, like you said, supply and demand. It's It's simple,
right? And if everyone's sitting back and waiting for June, and May, June, or whatever, then we're only March. I mean, and we got properties flying off the market. I would say jump in.
So how are you handling the multiple offers?
For the sellers, or
sellers or buyers.
Let's talk about the seller side at this point,
Right,
and then
right.
let's on next segment we're going to talk more about the buyer side and how do you make that successful offer as a buyer.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So talk the seller side. If I'm a seller and I'm getting multiple offers on my property,
Right.
The problem I see is the appraisals. So how do you guide your seller?
Well, appraisals aren't. There's not a magic pill for an appraisal, right? There's not a secret formula that we know an absolute value. So you do have to weigh out. It has to be within reason. I mean, if somebody's going to offer you $20,000 more than what the last house just like it sold for, obviously, we're probably not going to get the appraisal. However, when you look at offers, there's more than just the dollar amount. There's the type of financing, how good they are at financing. When do they need to close? How does that work with you? Right? If that may not work. They may need a quick sale and you need to find a house. So there's a lot of avenues. So what we do for the sellers is that you lay it out. This offer, it looks like this, and this is how they wrote. This is how they wrote. And sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking one of the offers and it fits you the best. It's not always the highest price. And sometimes we'll counsel them. They'll go, yeah, they may say they're going to do this, but if it's not going to appraise, where's that going to get you?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Hey, you're listening to Real Estate Radio Denver. You know, we are having a great conversation here about what's going on in the marketplace and how that multiple offer situation, how you can handle that either on the seller side or the buyer side. So lots of great information. We're going to talk about how to get that offer accepted. Right. You know, what's the right way as a buyer to make that go? So come on back. Don't forget, call us off air. You can leave us a message. I'll put you together with either at 720-515-1818, 720-515-1818. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Denver. You're here with me, Tom Souther, and we have a couple of great guests in studio. I've got Tom Geisen, the owner of Homestead Title, who, gosh, Tom, we usually do a little plug for you, so maybe we should talk about what's going on with Homestead. Some of this stuff is really applicable to you as well. We were talking about experienced real estate agents. And the same goes on the title side. There's so many companies to choose from. Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I won't kill this by any means, but we did talk earlier a little about interviewing your agent and qualifying your agent, and I couldn't stress that enough because that's too often, and I think we were talking maybe off air about how, you know, I think sometimes people feel like on a buy side that since they're not paying any commissions to buy a house, that it's like, oh, okay, great. Hey, that's sort of a sell that I think agents will say is, hey, it costs you nothing, use me, because the seller pays that commission. But it could cost them something, right? You know, you have to qualify. And to your point, Tom, you know, obviously, you know, I own a title company, and a lot of people don't know this, but there's about 350 title companies in Denver. And, you know, when we talked off air, I said, you know, I think people kind of agreed on the number of going, wow, I think I know about 10 to 15 of them. Yeah. So, you know, there's really 10 to 15 kind of players in the market that are truly, I think, invested in their business, you know, have the ample, the adequate and or qualified underwriters, have offices, have qualified staff, have insurance. Staff. Mm-hmm. You know, we have tons of insurance. I mean, I'm not I started my company 3.5 years ago, but I would guess my insurance parallels that of the biggest companies out there. And we have to do that. You know, if you're investing in your business, I need to know that I need to make sure that any person who sends business my way can feel confident that they're getting a quality product that's going to be around. And so to that point, I think, you know, please qualify us and come ask us what our qualifications are, just like you would a real estate agent. Yeah, and I love the fact that, you know, almost all of your staff is seriously experienced. Yeah, about 20-year average. 10 years minimum, 20 on most. So that is a great thing, and that's why you're a valued partner for the show. And, you know, I love referring out my deals to Homestead Title. Rah-rah. There you go. and I have with us as well Shellee Scherr, the owner of Signature Realty. They're in Wheat Ridge, and I also have with us Bessie Chachas from Your Castle Services. And Bessie, I encourage you to jump in if on these topics if that makes sense. Shellee, one of the things that was pointed out to me that, you know, we were talking about early on, experienced agents, and you closed 78 deals last year, 90 plus the year before. So you are in that top 2-3%.
Probably more like 1%.
Yeah.
Specifically
Or
for 1%
1%.
in the nation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And, that's huge. And it makes a huge difference on transactions and being successful. Bessie has closed a silly number of short sales. So
and
that whole
I work
thing
with
is
my
incredible.
husband.
And your husband.
Okay, yeah. So there's two of us,
So,
actually.
Yeah, we all
not
know,
just
we
me
all
by
know you
myself.
do the lion's share. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Can't have enough shears.
I'm kidding.
So, anyway, just a seriously experienced agent, which is great. And we were talking last segment about sellers and what they're looking for in offers they receive. So I'd like to go back there because there's some pieces there to financing and to, down payment and all of those that play into that decision.
Right.
So what do you think are the key things for them when they're looking at offers, and how do you advise your customers?
Well, as long as the price is within reason, you can always figure the numbers on the price. There's the other parts of the contract that the seller may not understand, like the financing, because you have to determine not only how much money they're going to get, but does this have a high chance of closing? What's the probability of getting to the closing table? And sometimes when you have somebody who doesn't have a lot of cash to put down, or a situation where you don't know if they're going to be able to overlook maybe some inspection items, some of the minor things or whatever.
Right.
So you lay all that down. A higher down payment is always important when you're reviewing the offers.
And some loan types are harder on inspection.
Exactly.
An FHA borrower is going to have a little harder time with some inspection issues than a conventional buyer.
Well, they have certain things that you might get through the inspection, and now you got to get through the appraisal inspection items.
Right.
But like you were saying, and we didn't know that if you have an adequate down payment, we were saying off air, is they can still qualify if it doesn't appraise, and you're putting, let's say, $200,000, you're putting $100,000 down, and they offer $210,000, it appraises at $200,000. That buyer could still pay $210,000 without a whole lot of extra out of his pocket.
That's right.
Yeah, because they're already putting down a bunch of cash.
If he so chose to.
Well, and exactly. So, from a lending standpoint, more down payment makes everybody easier. And right now, where values are increasing,
right.
We're seeing offers above asking price sometimes, often, right now. That buyer with a larger down payment is a much more attractive buyer to a seller than
even if his offer comes in at 202, but he's putting out a chunk of money versus someone offering 210 and putting down 3.5% on an FHA, right? Is it 3.5%?
3.5%.
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
for you. The FHA is going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah. And don't forget, I think the FHA appraisals stay with the property for 6 months.
With the property. That's
and
right.
You can't afford to have a FHA appraisal staying with your property for 6 months in a market that right now is increasing.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring up something really interesting on this too. Is the appraisal, right? Because this is it's like the stock market. If somebody's buying, everyone's buying in the stock market goes up, right? We have this supply and demand going on in Colorado where people are offering more than the asking price, right? But we're still struggling with the appraisals.
Yeah, sure.
And so to get those appraisers to make that jump, right? To make that leap. And I've talked to some appraisers and they say, I need a comp.
I have one right now.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a story on that because it's kind of like the cart before the horse. And you say, well, wait a sec. You know what? At some point you have to elevate that, raise that value because the demand is there, right? And if the comp is never there and you're never going to raise it, we never improve, right? And they told me, they're like, well, we look for cash offers because those are people that, there was no financing involved, and those will drive that extra comp. There's not that many cash. I mean, there are in investor land, but in cash offers. So, Bessie, love to hear your story.
Mine is on the opposite end. I have one right now, literally, where we've got it, approved, of course, because I do short sales. But it's a small one. It's about $100,000, and the appraisal on the buyer side came in $13,500 less. And so now I have to go and negotiate with the bank because it's not appraising for what the bank wanted it for. And so we've got to go back and negotiate with the bank about this being lowered actually on this end. It's rare that, it goes down, but, when they go higher.
Yeah, in a regular sale, though,
it's different.
It's a little different in that your seller has to I think, have a great value estimate going in on knowing what that thing's going to appraise for.
Right.
Because you're not going to get an appraisal above comps.
And
Shellee, do you meet appraisers?
Yes.
Tell us about that. I know that's important.
Right. Either Kyle or myself will meet the appraiser at the property. And if for some reason, like some companies give you this time frame of we'll be out from 1 to 4 or whatever, we always have a package for them.
Yeah.
And I think it helps. If you can help somebody's job, we're not trying to, the value is the value. We're just trying to help them out. Here's where we came up with our numbers. Here's all these beautiful pictures on the property. Here's some of the special features of this property that I don't want you to miss.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've not gotten an appraisal in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Would you say most agents do show up to meet the appraiser?
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
and most appraisers...
It's a really important factor.
It is.
Most appraisers that I've spoken with, encourage the listing agent in particular, to show up with, how did you come up with your value?
Absolutely.
Help me.
Help educate.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah,
the property better than him.
They are data driven, and if you've got data for them, they're very anxious to use that data.
And that, by the way, is by no means illegal, because you're just presenting information. You're not influencing the value. You're presenting
his
information.
decision whatsoever. You're just giving him data.
Yeah.
We're not bribing them anymore, like we used to. No, I'm joking.
Right.
No.
That was not the host. I would never ever involve in that kind of activity.
You were talking off
funny.
air about one other thing too. I'm curious about is do you list your house first and then go find a house, which can be hard because inventory is so low,
right?
Or do you go and buy contingent upon selling? What's the answer?
I don't think the market's quite ready yet for subject. Selling your house and putting a little clause in there, subject to me finding a suitable replacement clause.
Yeah.
I mean, that when the market is there, then that's an option for you, because there's that. But I don't think we're there yet. So ideally, if you're a seller, I just want you to kind of think about the possibility of a 2 move, to put yourself in the best situation to get you the most money on your house and to get the best deal on the house you're buying. Because if you have a contingency of any sort right now in a market that's low on inventory, you're going down to the bottom of the list. I mean, it's just a very hard thing, because you got this big if hanging out there. I want to buy your house if my house sells, right?
True.
Right. So when the market, if it continues in this upward cycle, then it's possible that you can sell and then buy and put a little contingency in there that, this deal only closes if I find a house. But we're not there yet. So right now, if you're a seller, I would say get your house on the market, get it sold. Maybe you can rent back. There's other things we can talk about, all of this stuff.
There's some other
you can rent back, other solutions. However, plan on selling the house, then buying the house. And that way,
so
you'll get
an offer first, then start looking for a new house. Or
I'm actually saying you're at the point right now you might even have to close.
Yeah.
There's still a contingency out there. You got your inspections, you got appraisals, you got your buyer's loan.
So you're saying close, maybe even go into a temporary apartment or something.
Possibly, but in the long range of things, it's a small problem, a short amount of time for you to get the best deal on both ends. And like I said, sometimes the buyers will even accommodate and let you rent back from them. That gives you the best of both worlds.
Shellee, we got a couple minutes left. Let's talk about how do you get that. What's your recommendation or advice to buyers? How do they get that offer accepted? What's
and it can be hard, right? If you're a buyer in this market, we're going to kind of go back. You do need to use the expertise of a good broker, somebody who's done a lot of deals, because maybe somebody's been through this market or similar market. Because there are tricks of the trade that can help you move your offer up the list. Obviously, you don't really want to offer more than fair market value,
right?
Because you're not going to get appraised. We've beat that up, right? We know that, right? But so you put in your strongest offer, right? And then
strongest offer that you think you can really close,
right? Exactly.
And if you've got
your
lots
best.
of cash, you can overbid a little more than somebody with less cash.
Exactly. But if you are getting any financing, that pre-approval letter from the lender, that can make or break the deal sometimes.
Yeah.
With listing
absolutely.
agents that have been doing this a while, they can read through. I typed this up, or we verified their credit. We've done their,
We've seen the income documents.
Exactly.
We have automated underwriting approval. There's a bunch of keywords. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly.
Which we all do, by the way, with my lending team at Guild Mortgage.
Yeah, and that makes a difference. So what else we suggest is that you have your broker find out what's important to the seller. Okay? Not every seller is it always about money.
Well, that's a good point. Might be time frame of moving.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
A good point.
And that goes back to maybe they want to put in your offer that, hey, you can rent back from me for 1 or 2 months while you find your house. Maybe that'll make the difference, right?
And how do you find that out? By you as the agent asking the other agent?
Your agents have to communicate, and they have to communicate well. And you have to have an agent that's willing to, to find out this information and write the contract and know what to put in there.
Shellee, thank you so much. We got to get off of here a little bit, and I thank you so much for coming in, Shellee Scherr with Signature Realty, and we will see you next week. Come on back.